All right, yo. What's going on, everyone? I absolutely need to tell you about what went down yesterday on First Take because it was genuinely one of the most roster moves-packed and NFC implications-heavy discussions about the San Francisco 49ers potentially signing four-time Pro Bowl defensive end Matthew Judon after Miami released him, bringing back quarterback Aiden Martinez to the practice squad while working out offensive lineman Jauan Jennings closing in on contract incentives worth over $4 million, and the explosive possibility of Deebo Samuel returning to San Francisco in the 2026 offseason after his one-year stint with Washington Commanders. Because he thrived in Kyle Shanahan's scheme being used as a wide back, maximizing his unique skill set that I've witnessed all season long, and I'm not exaggerating when I say that Stephen A. Smith, Shannon Sharp, Dan Orlovsky, and the entire panel spent nearly 4 hours meticulously dissecting Miami Dolphins benching Tua Tagovailoa for rookie Quinn Ewers, marking the potential end of Tua's tenure with Miami due to 20 touchdowns versus 15 interceptions and inability to play in cold weather. Whether Tua could become a Kyle Shanahan reclamation project as Brock Purdy's backup if Mac Jones gets traded for a second-round pick. Matthew Judon being washed at 33 years old with 0 sacks this season, but providing veteran depth at defensive end to help stop the run, which was a glaring problem against Tennessee, giving up nearly 7 yards per carry. Aiden Martinez returning to practice squad to help prepare for mobile quarterbacks like Caleb Williams and Sam Darnold on the schedule. Jauan Jennings needing just 16 more catches to reach 60 receptions and 105 more yards to reach 600, earning $666,000 for each milestone after scoring 7 touchdowns, already hitting that escalator. And most explosively, the theory that Deebo Samuel could return to the 49ers in 2026 after signing with Washington as a free agent because he had his best years in Shanahan's system being used perfectly as a wide receiver to running back hybrid, has chemistry with George Kittle and Brock Purdy, knows his exact role in the offense, and with Brandon Ayuk's situation uncertain, and Jennings potentially leaving the wide receiver position becomes a need while Samuel's market value at age 30 might be more affordable, plus his personal attachment to the franchise and desire to win a Super Bowl with a consistently competitive team, and the way they methodologically evaluated everything from whether the 49ers should put in a waiver claim on Judon requiring an active roster spot, to why stopping the run is critical with games against Colts, Bears, and Seahawks remaining to the contract incentives breakdown, showing Jennings earning $4 million if he plays 15 games plus $666K each for 6 touchdowns, already hit with 50% of snaps, 60 catches, and 600 yards to the Deebo Samuel reunion scenario, where his unique wide-back skill set fits Shanahan's scheme perfectly, and filling a potential talent gap at receiver while chasing the championship that eluded him during his first 49ers tenure, had everyone in the studio absolutely mesmerized. Because this isn't just about minor roster moves. This is about the 49ers at 10-4 making strategic additions like Judon for run defense depth while positioning themselves financially and schematically to potentially bring back Deebo Samuel, who despite being 30 in 2026, remains one of the most unique weapons in football when deployed correctly in Shanahan's system. And if Brandon Ayuk's situation continues deteriorating and Jennings leaves in free agency, the wide receiver position becomes a glaring need that Samuel's familiarity with the organization, chemistry with key players, and championship aspirations could fill perfectly, creating a homecoming scenario that benefits both player and franchise. Hey, what's up, everyone? 1 second before we dive in, that like button right there, hit it now. Takes literally 1 second but makes a massive difference in growing this channel and reaching more fans. Just smash that like real quick. Every like pushes this video further, so do me that favor right now. So, First Take opens and Stephen A. Smith has this absolutely breaking news intensity, like he's about to reveal multiple significant 49ers roster moves, and Stephen A. immediately establishes that the show will cover the Niners signing a 4-time Pro Bowler at defensive end, bringing back a quarterback, working out offensive linemen potentially leading to additional roster moves, and a couple of wide receivers closing in on contract incentive. And Stephen A. talks about how in the aftermath of the Miami Dolphins getting housed by Pittsburgh Steelers on Monday Night Football, with Miami not making the playoffs, they're making significant changes, including benching quarterback Tua Tagovailoa. And Stephen A. keeps emphasizing multiple roster move, Pro Bowl edition, Miami making changes, making it abundantly clear there's lots of movement across the league. Shannon Sharpe, who's always been incredibly vocal about quarterback situations, immediately jumps in discussing the Dolphins' decision. And Shannon talks about how Tua was benched by head coach Mike McDaniel, with backup Zach Wilson not getting playing time. Instead, rookie quarterback Quinn Ewers, who played college football at Texas, will start for the remaining 3 games. And Shannon explains that Ewers was once the #1 overall recruit, originally going to Ohio State, then Texas, where he paired with Steve Sarkisian, bringing Texas football back. He's not mobile, but played in big college games with really good arm strength. And Shannon makes this comparison that Ewers' throwing mechanics remind him of Jay Cutler, where he can whip it with the flick of the wrist, but sometimes has lazy footwork, trying to rely on arm strength, leading to misses and turnovers. And Shannon makes this prediction that he wouldn't be surprised if this marks the end of Tua's tenure with Miami. Despite being due guaranteed money in 2026, Miami could draft a quarterback, going with somebody cheaper eating that money just to usher in a new era. And Shannon keeps saying, Tua's time is over. Too many turnovers, can't play in cold, making it clear this relationship is finished. Dan Orlovsky then introduces the fascinating possibility of Tua becoming a 49ers backup, and Orlovsky talks about how Tua, as a backup to Brock Purdy, is something that will surface among Niner fans moving forward. Be ready for it. And Orlovsky explains that if Tua gets cut by Miami, and the Niners trade Mac Jones to a quarterback-needy team, especially with quarterbacks like Leonard Sellers going back to school thinning the class, Mac Jones could fetch a 2nd-round pick and 4th-round pick as a hypothetical. And Orlovsky makes this argument that Mac Jones is a player who can start in this league and be really good for another team, so if the compensation is too good to turn down, the Niners will need a serviceable backup and maybe another Kyle Shanahan reclamation project. And Orlovsky explains that Tua has been in a familiar scheme with Mike McDaniel and could benefit from change of scenery pairing with Shanahan to get his career back on track as Purdy's backup. And Orlovsky keeps emphasizing Shanahan reclamation project, Mac Jones trade value, Tua needs fresh start, making it clear this scenario makes strategic sense. But then Stephen A. Smith shifts to the actual signing, which is Matthew Judon, and Stephen A. talks about how another move the Dolphins made today was releasing veteran pass rusher Matthew Judon, who's hitting waivers. And the question is, should the Niners put in a claim? And Stephen A. reads the profile showing Judon is a 4-time Pro Bowler with 0 sacks this season, 10 pressures, 7 hurries, 3 quarterback hits on 337 total snaps. As a rotational player at 33 years old, who's pretty much washed, and Stephen A. makes this argument that, but what Judon gives the Niners is a veteran depth piece, because you need bodies at defensive end, and at 265 pounds he's big, which the Niners like. He can help set the edge and stop the run, which was a glaring problem against Tennessee, giving up nearly 7 yards per carry. And Stephen A. explains that the last time they played a good team in the Rams, they ran all over them. Stopping the run has been a problem. Bringing in Judon helps with depth and gives another pass rusher because nobody needs to watch more Robert Beal. And Stephen A. keeps saying, washed, but provides depth, helps stop the run. Veteran presence matters, making it clear this is about addressing specific weaknesses. Shannon Sharpe then provides Judon's career context, showing why he deserves respect. And Shannon talks about how Judon is a pretty well-known player who did an incredible job turning into who he became. He was a fifth-round pick out of Grand Valley State in 2016, starting his career with Baltimore as a steady producer. And Shannon reads the progression showing 4 sacks, 8 sacks, 7 sacks, 9, 5 sacks, 6 sacks in his first 5 years, with Baltimore making a name for himself, then going to New England under Bill Belichick, where he really found a groove with 12.5 sacks, 14, then a career-high 15.5 sacks in 2022. And Shannon explains that was the last double-digit season with 4 straight years being a Pro Bowler and one of the top pass rushers in the game, but since then, really not much, with 4 sacks in 2023, 5.5 for Atlanta last year, and 0 this season. And Shannon makes this point that you're not looking for prime Judon, who was a sack artist. You're asking him to help stop the run and provide occasional pass rush. And Shannon keeps emphasizing respected veteran, prime years behind him, specific role needed, making it clear expectations are realistic. Brian Windhorst then discusses the quarterback roster move, bringing back Aiden Martinez. And Windhorst talks about how Martinez is back with the Niners being added to the practice squad after recently clearing waivers when cut by the New York Jets. And Windhorst explains this is interesting because the Niners opened the practice window for 7th-round pick Curtis Rohr out of Indiana. They want to see what they have in Rohr, though. They don't have to elevate him to active roster. If they don't, he just won't be eligible to return, but can practice, which is a win. And Windhorst makes this argument that, meanwhile, Martinez at 100% healthy can help prepare for mobile quarterbacks on the schedule. Phillip Rivers isn't mobile, but after that, you play Bears with Caleb Williams, who can run, Sam Darnold is athletic, and potential playoff opponents like Baker Mayfield or Bryce Young have mobility, so Martinez in scout team role helps prepare. And Windhorst keeps saying Martinez for scout team, mobile QB preparation, Rohr development window, making it clear this is strategic roster management. Stephen A. Smith then addresses the contract incentive situation with wide receivers, and Stephen A. talks about how, when you play in the NFL, your contract is public information, so we can discuss these incentives. And Stephen A. explains that Kendrick Bourne tweeted, "He's 1 receiving yard away from getting another $500,000. Then there's Jawan Jennings, who could make $4+ million if he reaches his incentives," which helped that he scored 2 touchdowns against Tennessee. And Stephen A. reads the detailed breakdown showing if Jennings scores 6 touchdowns, he earns $666,000, and he already has 7, so that's hit. If he plays in 50% of snaps, that's another $666K to $1. $5 million, 60 receptions is another $666K. $600 receiving yards is another $600K plus. Playing in 15 games earns $2.4 million, and playing 35 offensive snaps in a playoff game is another $600K. And Stephen A. explains that Jennings is at 44 catches, needing 16 more to reach 60, and 494 yards, needing 105 more to reach 600. So if he goes off against the Colts getting 105, 106 yards, it's because he's putting money in his pocket. And Stephen A. keeps emphasizing incentives driving performance. $4 million on the line, 16 catches, and 105 yards away, making it clear financial motivation matters. But then, the discussion takes its most explosive turn to Deebo Samuel's potential return, and Shannon Sharpe introduces the possibility of Deebo Samuel returning to the 49ers in the 2026 offseason after his 1-year stint with Washington Commanders as a free agent. And Shannon makes this comprehensive argument about the motivations for why this reunion makes perfect sense, starting with the technical and scheme fit, where Samuel had his best years with Kyle Shanahan, who utilized his unique skill set perfectly, using him as both receiver and running back in the wide back role, maximizing his impact. And Shannon explains that Samuel already has strong chemistry with key players like George Kittle and potentially Brock Purdy, facilitating immediate successful reintegration. Plus, he knows exactly what his role would be in the offense. And Shannon talks about the financial and contractual motivations, explaining that wide receiver is a position of attention for the 49ers in 2026 offseason, with Brandon Ayuk's situation uncertain and Jawan Jennings potentially leaving, creating a talent gap. And depending on Samuel's 2025 performance with Commanders and his age turning 30 in 2026, his market value might be more affordable than during previous negotiations. And Shannon discusses personal motivations, saying Samuel spent his first 6 seasons in San Francisco playing a fundamental role, reaching a Super Bowl and multiple conference finals. So returning to California and a familiar organization is appealing. Plus, the 49ers are consistently one of the most competitive teams, and if Samuel feels Commanders don't have championship potential, he'd prioritize returning to a team with better Super Bowl chances. And Shannon keeps emphasizing Shanahan's scheme maximizes Samuel. Wide back role is unique. Championship window matters, making it absolutely clear this reunion scenario has merit. What really struck me watching this entire First Take segment was how the panel comprehensively covered multiple significant 49ers roster moves, including potentially signing 4-time Pro Bowl defensive end Matthew Judon, despite being washed at 33 with 0 sacks, to provide veteran depth helping stop the run, which was a glaring problem, giving up 7 yards per carry against Tennessee, bringing back quarterback Aiden Martinez to practice squad for scout team rep, preparing for mobile quarterbacks like Caleb Williams and Sam Darnold on the remaining schedule. Jawan Jennings closing in on over $4 million in contract incentives, needing just 16 more catches for 60 receptions and 105 more yards for 600 receiving yards after already hitting the 7-touchdown escalator, earning $666K. The Miami Dolphins benching Tua Tagovailoa for rookie Quinn Ewers, marking the potential end of Tua's tenure due to 20 TDs versus 15 INTs and inability to play in cold weather, with the possibility of him becoming a Kyle Shanahan reclamation project as Brock Purdy's backup if Mac Jones gets traded for a second-round pick. And I think the clear consensus was that the most explosive scenario involves Deebo Samuel potentially returning to San Francisco in 2026 after 1 year with Washington Commanders because he thrived in Shanahan's scheme, being perfectly utilized as a wide-back hybrid weapon, has established chemistry with George Kittle and Brock Purdy knowing his exact role, and with Brandon Ayuk's situation deteriorating and Jawan Jennings potentially leaving in free agency, the wide receiver position becomes a glaring need that Samuel's unique skill set fills, while his market value at age 30 might be more affordable. Plus, his personal attachment to the franchise and city, combined with the 49ers' consistent championship competitiveness, makes this reunion attractive for a player seeking the Super Bowl title that eluded him during his first tenure. So while Matthew Judon provides immediate depth addressing run defense weaknesses, and Jennings chases financial incentives motivating late-season production, the bigger picture involves San Francisco positioning themselves financially and schematically to potentially bring back one of the most unique weapons in football who knows the system, fits the culture, and fills a talent gap at a position of need in their continued championship pursuit.